versus pain in trading and investments? What's your sort of understanding of that?
One of the features of human psychology is that we pay more attention to the emotional pain of loss than we do to the emotional benefits of gain. And that causes us to weight the two things differently and behave differently when we see ourselves in the domain of gains versus the domain of losses. So typically in the domain of gains, taking risk in order to achieve a gain, we are somewhat risk averse. Partly because the more money you've got, the lower the marginal utility of an additional pound. On the other hand, in the domain of losses, where we're thinking about losses, we tend to be quite loss averse. That's because we overweight the pain of losses. It makes sense in evolutionary terms. If you think in evolutionary terms of living in a subsistence lifestyle, making it through the winter, if you've got just enough food to make it through the winter and you lose some of that food, it's worth a lot of risk to get that food back, because if you don't have enough food through the winter, you'll die. But in our modern environment, that's probably less true. So we tend to have this feature of our psychology that when we've made a loss, that we're prepared to take much more risk to get it back than we would be to have the equivalent amount of gain. And this is where, by the way, reframing is very, very useful. One of the useful pieces of advice around managing your emotions is to reframe things, think about them differently, but also around losses versus gains. If you're sitting there thinking, I've made this big loss, now I want to win it back, you have to say to yourself, now let's imagine that I'm sitting, with a flat book, as if I hadn't made those previous trades, and I want to make a gain of X amount. What would be the risks I'd be prepared to take to make that gain, as opposed to win back that loss? And usually it's a lot less.